This is the waterfront of Muharraq Island. It's a part of the collection of islands which make up the small territory of Bahrain. They produce quite a lot of oil, though not a tremendous amount compared with Middle East standards. But they do, in addition, have one of the largest oil refineries in the world. Bahrain has a treaty with us under which we guarantee to protect her from outside interference, and we have considerable influence in what goes on inside Bahrain. Up till now, our relations with the people here have always been very friendly. Yet on this very spot where I am now, the Foreign Secretary, Mr. Selwyn Lloyd, when he was here on a short visit on March the 2nd this year, suddenly found himself in the middle of a riot directed against him. That's because the people of Bahrain are demanding from the ruler that they should have more say in the running of their own affairs. What is it that the committee wants?
The committee wants reforms and wants to participate in the administration of the country.
Does it not participate in the affairs of Bahrain at all at the moment?
At all at the moment. People are not participating in their own affairs. It is only one-man rule.
Now, what is the system of justice in Bahrain?
We got no justice. We got no, we got no rules whatsoever. We haven't got a code. We haven't got a penal code either.
No law.
And no laws. That's what we are trying to get for this country.
Now, why do you want Sir Charles Belgrave to go?
Well, because he actually not an expert for administration, and he has been here for the last 32 years, and he did absolutely nothing to improve the country. And I think he's getting very, very old, because he's 61 now, and he has all the powers. He's administrating hospitals, police, customs, finance, justice. That can't be for one man.
Now, do you want British protection of Bahrain to continue in the future or not?
Providing the British government help the people and support them instead of only supporting the rulers, as they are doing now.
You think that the British government ought to back up some of your demands?
Exactly.
Now, it has been said that your movement is very much influenced by Egypt, and that that makes it very anti-British. What do you say to that?
That is not correct at all. We love Egypt certainly because we speak the same language, same religion, and our education comes from Egypt. We like Egypt very much, but our movement is not influenced by any outside power.
Now,
we don't want to have our demands in installments, as I should say. We want them as a whole thing.
Do you mean that you won't agree to work anything unless Sir Charles Belgrave goes?
Well, we don't want anything to work actually unless we got the whole demands together.
Including
Sir Charles Belgrave to leave Bahrain.
Sir Charles Belgrave has been in Bahrain for 30 years. This is the garden of his house. Sir Charles, what exactly is the job that you do here?
I'm employed by the Sheikh as his advisor, and I'm the head of the Sheikh's government.
And what was the cause of the trouble which happened when the Foreign Secretary was here on March the 2nd?
That was an organized demonstration. It was anti-British, anti-Sheikh, and anti-me.
And what is the attitude of the government to the demands now being made by the committee?
That some of the demands are reasonable and are being acceded to. Some of the demands are not reasonable.
They put a pencil in my ear. They broke my nose twice. They broke my knee. with the hammer.
Is that the man that was in charge of that torture?
Yes. He is Colonel Ian Henderson.
Ian Henderson is a British national. For 30 years he was head of state security in Bahrain, a necklace of strategically placed islands in the Persian Gulf. His accusers say that under his leadership and personal example, state torture was commonplace, terror a working tool. Today, the security forces he commanded stand accused of murder, mutilation and the abuse of children. In a secret Foreign Office paper, the unidentified author, probably Parsons, writes,
"Over the past 3 years, Special Branch, under the command of the able Henderson, has established a dominating position over the subversive groups."
2 years later, Ian Henderson embarked on a series of arrests and detentions. Parsons wrote to a colleague,
"The ruler's view is that the detention should not be allowed to become protracted, but that Henderson was quite right in carrying them out in the first place to give the NLF and anybody else a sharp lesson."
His accusers claim that Ian Henderson, the Scot once feted as a hero and presented to British royalty, was to continue giving sharp lessons to the people of Bahrain for the next 30 years. For over 20 years, Ian Henderson has had a home here at Holne on the southern edges of Dartmoor. Which begs a question. Why is it that the man also known as the Butcher of Bahrain has never been arrested, never questioned?
Where people fighting for democratic rights broke the barriers of fear, only to find themselves alone and crushed. This is their story, and Al Jazeera is their witness, the only TV journalists who remained to follow their journey of hope to the carnage that followed. This is the Arab Revolution that was abandoned by the Arabs, forsaken by the West, and forgotten by the world. On March 14, 2011, Saudi Arabia led a military force of thousands into Bahrain, following weeks of street protests.
هذه الوقفة التي أبهجت وأفرحت جميع شعب مملكة البحرين.
Having fearfully watched the revolutions of Tunisia and Egypt, the Saudis would not allow one in their own backyard. In an unprecedented move, the GCC Peninsula Shield Force, a joint military of the 6 Gulf states, would be used to control citizens of the Gulf.
But let me be clear, we always stand up for human rights, and it's important that peaceful protests are allowed to go ahead. But I think we should be clear, Bahrain is not Syria. There is a process of reform underway, and this government backs that reform and wants to help promote that reform.
Excellent progress here in terms of implementing some of the things immediately, like the removal of arrest powers from the NSA, clearly crucial. The other issues will take time, and you cannot expect wholesale reform to take place in a matter of weeks. Some of this stuff, human rights training for 20,000 police officers is an immense undertaking.
I've spoken to people who have told me that they would take it. This has happened in the last couple of weeks. Yeah. Picked up, taken to unofficial sites or police areas that have not been officially recognized, I suppose, as police stations, beaten, tortured, they say. Yeah. And I can tell you the sites exactly. Yeah. Bahrain Youth Hostel, municipal buildings in Demistan, and the racing club in Bani Jamri. This is happening, they tell me now. So the president is, and these are issues about...
you're lobbying those things into me now, and if those things have happened, then there's a proper procedure where they need to, make their complaints. It'll be addressed and it will be investigated if that's the case. There's an awful lot, though, not doubting the veracity of what you just said, there's an awful lot of mischief on these social media sites.
وفي ذات السياق شدد جلالته على التزام مملكة البحرين بحكومتها على مواصلة الإصلاحات في المجالات القضائية والاجتماعية والاقتصادية للجميع ولجميع المواطنين مصانة. وأشار جلالته خلال المباحثات إلى الجهود التي بذلتها حكومة مملكة.
As this is the first inquiry, can I take the opportunity of just pointing something out to the wider public? There's been a considerable amount of press speculation that this is an inquiry into human rights in Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. It is not. And I hope that those who wish to divert the committee's attention will understand that we intend to stick very firmly to our terms of reference.
Nevertheless, in the eyes of many Bahraini people, we are identified with the regime. We seem, in the interest of our oil and our policy east of Suez, to be anxious to preserve the status quo. The peculiarity of the Bahrain situation is that people want us to stay here, but they also want us to use our power to create a democracy. If we don't, then we will be even more deeply and perhaps tragically identified with an autocratic and increasingly unpopular ruling family.
Absolutely ripping, seven lovely acts of every day. Content, rushing, faith.